Hey there, welcome to the channel. I'm Ben, and I have been spending a lot of time this year looking into the new information that has sort of slowly been becoming available about the replacement for the iconic Suzuki DRZ400, my very first dual sport motorcycle. And if you guys haven't seen those videos up until, well, about 5 minutes ago, I was really pretty sure that one of the new DRZ4Ss was going to end up in my garage sometime as early as this season. But now, well, I'm not so sure. Stick around and I'll tell you why. So to sort of start at the beginning, when I very first bought my first DRZ 400, I was really pretty excited about it. Back then, it was sort of the cool dual sport to have. It was the newest, sort of flashiest looking option out there. All the other ones had the same old sort of boring 90s or even 80s styling, and the DRZ was just this cool, awesome wheelie monster that all of the cool kids had, and I was really pretty excited to get mine until I realized that, well, it didn't really feel anywhere near as comfortable or as fun as my sport bikes did on the hour ride to get to my trails up north. And off-road, it was definitely fun, maybe a little bit tall for me. I did end up on my side a few times, but it was definitely a great off-road capable bike. And I sort of always wished, after I went to bigger, heavier bikes like my KLRs and the Tenere and now the DR and the XR, that I would have, well, spent a little bit more time on the DRZ, since it is, again, such an iconic motorcycle and sort of a staple in the dual sport community. And I know a lot of you DRZ owners out there absolutely love your bikes. And honestly, I think if I had my '08 back in my garage now, I probably would like it as well. I would just use it a little bit differently than, well, I thought I was going to use it when I first purchased that one. And when you guys sort of made me aware that there was going to be possibly a new model for 2025, I was really pretty excited about it. I thought this might be a great opportunity to sort of look back at my first dual sport that I felt like I didn't get enough time with, and also try out a new version of it that would actually make sense to purchase, rather than, again, sort of looking back at my past in a bike that I'd already ridden. So I thought that was going to be perfect. I'd actually sort of briefly considered purchasing both the DRZ4S and the new KTM 390 Adventure that I'm personally really excited about, because I think that fits, well, the riding style that I have right now anyways a lot better than just about anything else on the market today. When KTM released the price at $6,999, I thought maybe that would affect what they were going to stick on the new DRZ4S for a price, and I don't know if it had any effect at all or not, but I had personally hoped that it would come in a little bit closer to that price point, or even just a little bit closer to the 2024 DRZ 400 price point, which was somewhere right around $7,199. And of course, any of these motorcycles, you can usually pick up the sort of last year model a little bit cheaper, and certain dealers will sell them for a little bit less or maybe a little bit more depending on where you're at. So I was really pretty confident that it was going to be something that was attainable for me. And even if it was going to be a few bucks more than the old model, you know, I thought that was still going to be okay. Somewhere around $7,500 wasn't going to be too big of a deal. And now one of you guys actually sent me an email to let me know that the price had been announced, and I don't really know what to say about it. I love Suzuki. I loved my DRZ400. I love my DR650. I've owned multiple four-wheelers made by them. Actually, currently own, I think, the first four-wheel drive four-wheeler ever made, which is by them. And man, I'm pretty disappointed to see that the price of this new bike is going to be $1,800 more, almost $2,000 more than last year's model, the original DRZ400, which actually, weighed less, had about the same horsepower. $8,999 is a lot of money for a dual sport. I mean, what is the new Tenere 700? I mean, it just over 10,000. I personally would have been more than happy to pay this amount for a sort of rally version, like the concept that I put out in a video not too long ago, with a larger gas tank, a rally, well, full rally wraparound fairing in the front, and something similar to the sort of wide ratio 5-speed drop-in gear set that aftermarket companies have been producing for a while now for the old model. If this bike had all of that, I think it would definitely be worth this cost, but to me that it just seems like a lot for a bike that really isn't that much different from the old model. I do still hope that they'll come out with some sort of rally version for this bike. I think that really would be cool, and I think it would sell well. I don't know. Let me know. Would you guys buy a rally version of this bike? If they could come in at somewhere around this price point, even $10,000, I think maybe wouldn't be bad and would compete with a lot of the other bikes that we're seeing from companies like Cove. Come on, Suzuki, you know you want to. I know a lot of you guys were disappointed that it didn't have the 6-speed transmission, and I would at least hope that they would sort of widen the ratio of the 5-speed, but other than that, I was really not disappointed in the changes that they had made. I mean, a lot like when I went from the Gen 2 to the Gen 3 KLR, I understood that they had to do what they did to keep the price low. They did a lot to the engine, I guess, but they did a lot that doesn't really seem to have changed what the bike is much, and I think that is sort of the goal maybe that they were going for, but man, I think if the price was going to end up being that high, I think they would have been better off maybe bumping the horsepower up a little bit to be a little bit different than the previous model. So definitely a little bit disappointing. Still probably a great motorcycle for somebody who's looking for something sort of between an enduro and a dual sport, somewhat of a slightly more aggressive trail bike. And I mean, a lot of the specs and features that they took from the old bike and kept with the new one, I think are going to make this a bike that still does sell. But I think a lot of us are going to maybe be waiting until they're slightly used and a couple $1,000s cheaper, because boy, $9,000 is a little bit too rich for my blood. Not that I've done enough research on them to know for sure, but if I was to be looking at a DRZ4S and a CRF450, I mean, maybe it's just because as much as I love Suzuki, I'm just kind of at heart a Honda guy, since that's what my dad always had when I was a kid, and that's what I learned to ride on, was a 750 Honda Magna. Maybe I'm just a little bit more biased and have always wanted a CRF450 RL, but I was really thinking that I was going to get a DRZ4S to compare even just to the DR650, and now at that price point, man, I'm not saying I'll never buy one, but I'm sure not going to be able to afford to run out and buy a new one, which kind of stinks because I was really pretty excited about that. So that's definitely a little bit disappointing. I assume that it probably is to some of you guys. I know a lot of you guys are really excited to pick one of these up and are on a waiting list. So let me know what you guys think as far as this price goes. Do you think this is a bike that can compete with the CRF 450 or really any of the other bikes in the space around that price point and with similar specs and features? Thanks for watching. Take care. Stay safe. Stay swanky. Get out there and enjoy this beautiful world God created on whatever machine you've got in the garage. Just get out there and enjoy it. And we'll catch you on the next one.